Well, welcome to another edition of 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse. We're in the middle of a friggin' heat wave here. It's in the high 90s outside. My air conditioning is going non-stop. So, one question that had been asked of me this week is, a lot of other questions have been asked of me about what were the most depraved films that ran on 42nd Street? Well, I had to do some thinking. And what's the definition of depraved? Morally corrupt and perverted. So, yeah, there was a lot of films that filled this bill, and I mean, depraved, I mean by having content, subject matter, storylines that would basically make the average person cringe or get up and walk out of the theater, or never want to see these films again. So I compiled a little list here, and first on the list is Mondo Cane from 1963, a Times film that was a documentary done by Prosperi and Jacopetti. I can't pronounce their first names, Franco Prosperi, the other one I can't pronounce, where basically they went all around the world shooting weird shit and disturbing shit and violent shit. Some of the highlights are drunk Germans in a German beer garden punching each other out. Atomic fallout causing mutations on Bikini Island with fish that come up on land now and sea turtles that have no sense of direction and just go out to the middle of the island and die, and birds sitting on eggs that will never hatch because they're sterile. All in all, a depressing scene. Also victims of shark attacks, Chinese death houses, New Guinea cargo cult worshippers, animal slaughter, all kinds of shit. Well, that was put out by none other than Jerry Gross, who wanted a second one, Mondo Cane 2, which was edited out of extra footage from the first one, and Jerry put that out as a wonderful double bill of Mondo Cane 1 and 2, guaranteed to nauseate you. Actually, I saw this damn thing on Channel 11 in New York back in the mid-60s. It seemed that it run its course, and somehow 11 picked it up and really didn't cut that much out of it. Really weird. But also, Jerry Gross picked up their next film, Africa Adito, which basically was the crew going into Africa and documenting elephant slaughter, whole villages being wiped out, Mau Mau massacres, really appalling shit. They also got a little trouble because it seemed that they used their influence to sort of delay an execution so they could get a better shot of it. Well, this didn't sit too well with other people around the world, and especially back in Italy. The film got an American release and was quickly yanked out due to uproar, and was picked up by Jerry Gross, who trimmed 45 minutes out of it and kept the worst parts and released that as Africa Blood and Guts. To follow these guys, actually, is a story in itself, because they were headed to Brazil after doing Africa Blood and Guts to film a time travel story which would take them back into the slave trade in the early colonies. When the government of Brazil heard the makers of Africa Adito were headed that way, they quickly denied them entry to the country. But they were welcomed with open arms in Haiti by Papa Doc, who basically gave them carte blanche to abuse the population. Now, not too much offends me, but this film did. I picked up the box set from Blue Underground, which had, the Goodbye Uncle Tom cut and the longer Italian cut, which was appalling, and I'm not going to go into detail about this. Supposedly, this film was released on 42nd Street in 1972. I can't find any records of it other than something in Bill Landis's book, The Sleazoid Express, which said basically it was released, but theaters were loath to book it because they didn't know what the reaction of the crowd would be. Well, I can tell you what the reaction of the crowd would be. They burn down or trash the fucking theater because it's that incendiary. It's that racist and that bad. Now, being that Mr. Landis is not really known for his truthfulness, and I get a lot of shit about this. I don't hate Bill Landis, period. I don't hate anybody. But he lied. It's that simple. And his lies have been proven over the years. And I know he's the god to certain video store nerds. And when I did a panel up in Cinema Wasteland and I outed him, a friend of his was on the panel and took umbrage to it. Well, dude, I'm sorry, but your friend was a junkie and he was a liar. And I'm, like I said, I'm not the first one who said this, and I'm not the only one who said it. It's been proven. But fuck that. I can't see how this film would get a release, and it's been buried for years until Blue Underground put it out. Well, another wonderful film, which is completely depraved, would be something called San Francisco Ball. Now, I didn't set out to see this film. I used to go to this place called Beeline Comics or Beeline Books on 8th Avenue, which was in close proximity to the Venus Theater. And you could buy movie stills and lobby cards there, really cheap if you wanted to spend the day and sort through the never-ending stacks of stuff that was there. Well, as I made my purchase and I was leaving, the skies opened up, and back in the 70s, you didn't go on the subways. It was really fucking dangerous to go on the subways. So I decided to go see what I thought was going to be a hippie porn film, San Francisco Ball. Well, it wasn't. It's a sleazy kidnap film where basically two girls are kidnapped and held for a $50,000 ransom, and while they are held, they are raped. There's 3 rape scenes in the film, and it's a softcore film, which makes it even more sleazy because my memories of this film are fragmented because it was so long ago, and I don't even know the actual year. It had to be in the early 70s. But you got a bunch of guys standing around with no pants on, with flaccid dicks, and blood-streaked legs standing over girls that have been sliced up with switchblades. It's cheesy, it's ugly, and it's disturbing. And it was put out by Something Weird Video back in the old days of VHS with the disclaimer that this film is about as erotic as skinning a squirrel. And I would have to concur. Next up would be Sean Costello's Forced Entry, which featured a tour de force performance by Harry Reams, a pre-Deep Throat Harry Reams, who basically is a Vietnam vet who comes back and rapes and kills women that he stalks home. Basically, he's a gas station attendant, steals the address off their credit cards, and then follows them home and rapes and kills them. It's a buzz killer at best, and the film really didn't last too long because it just really is depressing and downbeat. And Harry had trouble getting a little work after that. He never played a psychosexual character again until, he became famous for Deep Throat, which came out the year later and gave him, leads into better roles. Let's see now. I'll go up to this other film called Story of Prunella, which sounds pretty innocent. This was 1982. It was an Avon film, directed by Phil Prince, who my old friend Carter Stevens called a repulsive slug of a human being. Phil directed really nasty, repulsive shit. And this one is about a wedding that's interrupted by 3 escaped lunatics, one played by George Payne, who basically rapes the bride-to-be, played by the small-bodied Ambrosia Fox, to the point where she basically commits suicide. It's a real bummer of a film, as most Phil Prince films are, and it's, again, not very erotic at all. Okay, so we got that. Let's see. And, okay, Cannibal Holocaust, another one, 1980. Despite what people say, it was not a repeat player on 42nd Street. As a matter of fact, it ran at the Harris Theater with, I think, Revenge or Return of the Dragon, and only ran 2 weeks. Again, it's a buzz killer. And the more popular Make Them Die Slowly ran 10 weeks before Cannibal Holocaust hit 42nd Street. And I think the reason why was because Cannibal Holocaust is a really downbeat, depressing, brutal film, and it looks too real. And it didn't help matters that the director, Rogerio Deodato, told all his actors to basically get lost after the film was released. So it, led to the impression that people were actually killed during the film. The film was outright banned in Italy. It was yanked out of theaters in New Jersey for the animal cruelty, and like I say, it didn't play too long on 42nd Street, just 2 weeks. Another twisted film in the guise of a Western was The Cutthroats 9, a pseudo-spaghetti Western that was paired off with horror films. It was always on the bottom half of a horror film, and a fright mask was given out. It's basically a bunch of convicts escorted out that are attacked by bandits. All the soldiers are slaughtered, and it's like these people are picking each other off one by one. There's a nasty rape. Guys are set on fire. People are shot through the head. Limbs are cut off. People are gutted. I think I already did a video on this already. It's a depressing and nasty film. So, why not go with another depressing and nasty film, Violence in a Women's Prison, 1982, directed by Bruno Mattei and starring Laura Gemser as an undercover agent put into the prison whose warden is Lorena DeSalle and has a mercy-killing doctor played by Laura's real-life husband, Gabriel Tinte. And this film really covers the gauntlet of sadism. There's one lady guard who watches two female prisoners get it on while she diddles herself with her nightstick, and then when she gets off, she beats the living shit out of these two with her nightstick. The Gemser character, Emmanuel, of course, is giving a bucket of shit to get rid of, where she dumps it on her guards, and they basically roll in shit in a battle, and then she is thrown into a cell and bitten by rats, and then taken to her cell and left to die, except for her cellmate pulls a prank to get the doctor to come in there and looks over her shoulder and motions to the bed, and then she's taken to the ward and all kinds of other shit happens. Bunch of nasty crap happens. The doctor and Emmanuel take off, but are recaptured and brought back to the prison, where they find the warden and her cohorts all in chains. They are being arrested, and Emmanuel is going to do what she can do to get the doctor pardoned for what he did. That was 1980. It was followed, was it 80 or 82? That was followed by another women's prison movie released in 83 that was shot on the same sets using the same cast, called Women's Prison Massacre. Again, Gemser is a reporter who is wrongly imprisoned, and she has problems with another inmate called Albina, who was wearing the worst wig ever. Albina tries to set her up and winds up getting stabbed in the leg in a prison yard brawl. But there's more hijinks to come, because a bunch of male prisoners who are supposed to be temporarily housed there break loose, led by Crazy Boy Henderson, again played by Gabriel Tinte, Laura's husband. Among them is this guy Blade, who they basically go on a fucking orgy of raping the women prisoners, killing the guards, and demanding a van pick them up and take them to a helicopter to safety. This guy Blade kills the lover of another one of the women prisoners, who does a show-stopping scene by basically placing a razor blade on the tip of a cork and in planting the cork inside her, where she leads on Blade to rape her. He basically gets his banana split in two by the razor blade and is walking down the halls gushing blood, and is set on by the women prisoners. Again, this is another vicious, violent fucking movie, and eventually Crazy Boy and them escape. They are shot up, and Laura and Emmanuel is brought back to serve out her time, even though she's exposed to all this corruption. Laura Gemser stated that Bruno Mattei did not direct this, that Claudio Fragrasso did, and she said that Lorena DeSalle was an uppity bitch and not too good to do business with. Okay, so now we come down to something really, really nasty. Fight for Your Life, a William Mishkin film that starts out on the base of 42nd Street, where it gets out to the Lincoln Tunnel and ends up in Morristown, New Jersey, where a trio of escape cons led by Jesse Lee Kane, played by William Sanderson, who was in Newhart and Deadwood, and I'm sure this film is left off his resume, who has two sidekicks, a Spanish guy and a Chinese guy, who were referred to as the Spick and the Chink. They break into an all-black minister's family up in Morristown and torment the family, rape the daughter, do all kinds of nasty racist things to the family. A young boy is beaten to death by the Chinese prisoner, and a detective is following their trail and gets there in time to basically dispatch the two bad guys. The Asian guy dives through a plate glass window and winds up with a huge piece of glass in his back. He basically tosses his service revolver to the minister, who shoots Jesse Lee Kane in the throat. Luckily, I was sitting close to an exit when I viewed this film under a different title called Staying Alive, and I couldn't get out the exit door fast enough. Yeah, that was a really fucked up one. And last but not least on our list is Doris Wishman's Let Me Die a Woman, another 70s film that played at the Antco Theater, and I went to see it on a dare. It's about transsexuals and their transitioning, and is one is very sincere, but then you go into some other stuff with surgical footage, which we really didn't need to see. And again, Harry Reams shows up having sex with a transsexual lady and looks over his shoulder in a creepy thing, which reminds me of Forced Entry. This was another weird-ass film, and got a lot of play for some reason at the Antco. And actually, it was co-billed with Glen or Glenda, the Ed Wood film with Bela Lugosi. So those are our dirty dozen depraved films that I remember playing on 42nd Street. Of course, they're not the most depraved films ever made. There's been worse shit made since then. But, you know, as far as playing in that area, in the Times Square area, those are my top 12. So until next time, thanks for subscribing, thanks for tuning in. If you picked up your copy of Grindhouse Resurrection, I sincerely thank you. We still have it. All you got to do is PayPal $14 to Mr. MR42ND, street spelled out, Pete spelled out, at yahoo.com, and we'll get you out a copy as soon as we can. So until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the flip side.